Creators are quitting YouTube, and we want to know why. So join us today as we react to the Bliss Bean's final YouTube video detailing why she decided to leave the platform. Welcome back to the Cypress Room, where we dive deep on influencing with integrity. This is a podcast for creators, and I'm Meggie Honeycutt.
And I'm Christina Mascari, and everybody's quitting YouTube, Meggie.
Everybody's quitting YouTube.
Not
except
really.
for us.
Not really. We're just getting started. But there has been this huge trend over the past year of these really big creators quitting YouTube. And I think a lot of that has gotten coverage. But what hasn't gotten coverage is maybe the smaller, maybe less noticed, less famous YouTubers, but very successful in their own right that are quitting as well. And I stumbled upon a video of a creator this past weekend and watched her story. Have never watched any of her content before and thought it was an interesting story. So I shared it with you.
Yes, you did.
And what did you think?
I thought it was super interesting.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of thoughts. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about it today.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a breakdown video, a reaction video of the Blissful Bean and why she's quitting YouTube. And if you want to know more of her story, we will link this full video and you can watch the whole evolution of her channel. But in a nutshell, she started her YouTube channel when she was 17 years old. She started blogging when she was in middle school because of a school project.
Yes.
And then she decided she enjoyed blogging so much, I want to take it to the next level, and was doing video editing and stuff in high school. And so she decided as a junior in high school to start a YouTube channel. And here she is like 5 years later. I think she's 23 now. And I have stats. She has amassed how many subscribers? 297,000, which is a good feat.
Yeah.
She has 196 videos and 19 million views.
Wow.
And I did a little bit of math. It's hard to tell what people make on YouTube, like on their content. But just based off of what she would have earned on AdSense on her content from 19 million views with a very, I would say like an average CPM. She could have a lot higher than this. She could have lower. I don't know. But a very average one is like $10 per 1,000 views. And so if we extrapolate that out, she could have earned close to $200,000 on just her content over the past however many years she's been on YouTube. So seems pretty successful to me.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty impressive that a 17-year-old could start a YouTube channel and stay with it for as long as she did.
Yeah, because I think she's been
grow it to that amount.
I think she's been a student the entire time that she's been doing this, and most of her videos seem to revolve around productivity and like tools and study habits and like how to learn other languages and things like that, and all about just focusing and not being distracted and basically productivity, which would probably be a great channel for me to watch, but I probably would get so distracted I would never watch it. So that is the background on her, but we want to just Sorry. So that's the background on her, but we want to just dive into the why behind why she's quitting, because I think she laid it out very well.
Yes, and she makes some very interesting points that should give, people who are aspiring creators some food for thought before they jump into the world of content creation, I think.
Yeah, I think
when you're an influencer, living your life becomes a source of content. And so work bleeds into your life in a way that I think is pretty unique to social media. One thing I noticed is that posting online took away from my mental bandwidth to engage with people that I love in real life. So if I had a funny thought or cooked something pretty or had some thoughts on a book that I just finished reading, I would usually go to Instagram and immediately post that on my stories. By doing that, my natural human urge to share would be satisfied. I wouldn't share that same funny thought or that same picture or that same book review with a real life friend via text. And I think I didn't really notice that in the years when I was most immersed in YouTube, 2020 and 2021, because it was the pandemic and it was lockdown and I was already kind of feeling isolated. And so content creation became my world, and I didn't really notice that I wasn't engaging as much with my friends because of it. So when I started dating my boyfriend, I noticed that it became much harder for me to post on my stories because now here's there's this person with whom I wanted to share everything that popped into my head. And after I would do that, I didn't feel like sharing it again on Instagram.
I think this is funny because the reason why she's quitting YouTube is basically why we told people they should do YouTube a couple weeks ago.
I was thinking the same thing.
We watched Omar's video about just make your life, your content. But I don't think we went through the things of like why the negative side of that.
Right.
Like the easy side is, look, you have all this content to capture, but here she's kind of sharing the negative side of it. So it's kind of funny. I mean, everywhere you look, there's going to be information on the internet that there's not one way, and there's not all just pros to doing things. There's always going to be like cons or different, like, I don't know, different perspective on it.
Yeah. And I can see how if you're a person who doesn't compartmentalize the life as content and then the intentionality of like your personal relationships, how they can bleed and you can miss opportunities to connect in your real life.
Yeah. But I mean, we just said like 2 weeks ago, just make like everything content. But so should there be boundaries and should there be compartments?
I think people have to decide that for themselves.
Okay.
I mean, I guess just me personally, I'm obviously very new to this, but I'm not sharing the same things online as content that I'm sharing with my inner circle of friends.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think it's the same for you and what you do. You're maybe once in a while you are, but it's not my everyday habit. Like I'm sharing completely different things with my close friends and family than maybe I'm sharing online. So it's a little bit easier for me to compartmentalize. I don't know.
That makes sense. I was just relating to what she said here because she was like, oh, I would read this book or have a funny story and I would put it, I would put that out and then I wouldn't feel the need to like share it with someone. And sometimes I can get twisted in my head and think that I have shared something with my husband or think that I have shared something with a friend, but I just shared it on my stories. So it fulfilled that need to share it.
Yeah.
But then I'm not really connecting with anybody once I share that. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. And I think I look at younger generations who really do share every bit of their life and thoughts and what they're doing online. And I can see how that could definitely be a negative.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe that's just my own personality too, that I'm able to compartmentalize. Yes, life is content, but when I like really love a book or a show, I'm usually telling my friends first and then maybe sharing online after.
But wait, I have an example where you did not do this.
Oh.
But you're
I know what you're going to say,
so this
too.
is fun. Okay, so there's this really popular show out, which I'm sure Meggie everybody's talking about it. What is it called?
Nobody Wants This.
Nobody Wants This. And so Meggie you've done 2 TikToks on it.
Yeah.
Correct? Have you done stories on it too on Instagram? Okay. So, and this is the first time I heard about it. And it is obviously a big part of your life. And we're close friends. And you had not shared it with me. But do you think that when you shared it with people like that filled the urge to want to share it with like me or your other friends in real life? Have you shared it with anybody in real life?
Not besides my husband.
Okay.
But there was some thought in this because I know you and my other best friend, Melissa, don't really watch Netflix shows anymore. Yeah. So maybe that was part of it.
Okay.
But maybe you're right. Okay. Maybe I'm contradicting myself.
But you did share it. You did share it with us. We got together on Friday night and had dinner, and you did share it then. Yeah. And we both kind of were like, meh.
Yeah, as I expected.
So see? Okay, so there's a case where maybe sometimes some of the things you're really passionate about would be better shared with your audience because the target for that program is exactly who your target audience is for your content that you're creating now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, 40-year-old women that were in love with Seth Cohen. Was that his name?
On the OC.
And so now they're seeing him in an adult role that he's back in their lives. And everybody loves, isn't her name Kristen Bell? Everybody loves her.
Yes.
She's so cute.
So it's such a good show, by the way, you guys.
We might have to
twice.
We might have to do an episode on favorite things where you can share more about it. You've watched it twice?
Yeah.
Wow. It must be good.
It is really good.
Okay, well, I'll get us back on track. Let's hear a little bit more about that content creation and personal life blur from the Bliss bean.
But first of all, a lot of my friends and family did follow me on social media, so it just is kind of weird when you say something to them and they're like, yeah, I know, I already saw it on your stories. And the other more important thing is that I am just not that social. I have a very small social battery, and so I just realized that when I dedicate a lot of that social battery to maintaining this connection with an online audience and trying to share interesting things with them constantly, I give up a lot of my real world social life because I don't have the energy to also share stuff with those people. I don't know if that...
There is so much I can unpack in that 1 minute
Yes.
clip. So first of all, I want to start with, I really related to her talking about the friends and family thing, because I do have a lot of people, friends and family, that watch my stories. And particularly, I can share you a story with my mom. Like a couple weeks ago when I cut my finger, you guys, making a simmer pot for a YouTube video. It was hilarious. Like I sliced my finger open trying to make this video like really quickly on fall decorating. And so I put like a Band-Aid on and was like, how do you know when you need stitches? Because I really thought I needed stitches. Like it would not stop bleeding. And I had to finish making this video and I'm like gushing blood all over my counter. So I shared that experience because I really did need to know. Like instead of texting my friends being like, should I get stitches? I put it on the internet because that's what I do now. And my mom had seen it, but did not text me about it. I didn't talk to her about it. And I saw her in real life and she's like, oh, ha, ha, and made a joke about my finger. And it was really weird because we didn't have a in-person exchange about it. And my mom is someone who I have in-person exchanges with. So she had this thing where she saw a story. She knew something that happened to me, but I didn't tell it to her and I didn't get to see her reaction. So she had this whole personal connection with me through a story on Instagram where she made an inside joke with me in front of someone and we had never talked about it. So that it's weird when you say that out loud.
Yes, it is. When you say that out loud, it makes so much sense. Like what she's talking about.
And it's not something that you can explain to anybody unless you have a online personality.
Yeah.
And I don't think, you're so used to just doing it and you're like, oh, you get over the hurdle of, oh, I'm living my life and I'm showing it and there's a public record and anybody like in the world could have access to the story. That's crazy saying that out loud. Yeah. And just realizing what a mental load that is. Mm-hmm. And there's no book for it. There's no therapy for it. There's no, here are the boundaries to keep yourself safe. I mean, I guess there are some stuff out there, but I think we're just working so much and trying to grow and build this thing and grow this brand that you don't stop and think of maybe like the mental and the social repercussions of living your life online.
Yeah.
It's going deep.
It is going deep. I related more to what she was saying about a small social battery.
I relate to that too.
Because that is definitely me. So I can understand why for her it felt like being social sharing online. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I feel that because I think that's why I get burnt out so much, because you're just you have to be on a lot. And my personality, I can be on a lot. And when I'm in a group of people that I really know and trust, I can be on a lot. And it's because I've gotten comfortable being that way on the internet. I'm like that a lot. But in my real life, like if I don't pull back and take time to just be by myself and literally be by myself, I'm talking about being in my room, in my chair or in my bed without anybody else in my room. Like not my kids, not my husband. Like I need that time to decompress and recharge, or I'm going to snap at you, or I'm going to be tired, or I'm going to I just know for my mental load, that's not good. So to hear her explain that out, I was like, oh, maybe that's why I hit these walls all the time, because maybe I'm not taking enough time to recharge that social battery. Because you'd think oh, but you're not with people, but you are. There is someone, when you're putting content out, you're putting it out because someone's watching it. And that's still a social exchange, even though it doesn't necessarily.
It's one-sided.
Yeah. And that's another thing that she talks about later that we'll get into. But like the psychology of actually sitting down and thinking about these relationships when you're creating social media, it's kind of like, it's blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah. I love that she is at 23 so self-aware and thinking this deeply about it, because I don't think at 23 I would have thought as deeply about future consequences or even how it affects, your real in-person relationship.
Yeah. And we were talking about a little bit about this as we were planning this episode. Like you asked the question, do you think she's just going through this and processing all of this because of her age and because she's having to experience these things that we got to experience off camera? And do you think it would be easier for someone our age? Like, do you think they would go through these same things?
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is. That's why I asked it, because I think when you're our age, you do have more of an awareness of like the repercussions of like decisions, and you're a lot more forward thinking because of your life lived experience. But there are some things you can only learn by actually doing them and going through it. And even, we've been talking a lot just like outside of this about kind of that pressing and crushing and the sifting of going through some difficult, challenging, stretching things to learn, to be able to learn. So I think maybe there's a little of both.
Maybe there wouldn't, maybe if you started now, you wouldn't have as much pressure and feel like, oh, well, this is why I'm quitting, because all these things, like, I don't like them, or it's too much. Like, maybe it's just too much. Maybe these things are always going to be there, but you have to decide for you, like, is this worth it? And maybe at a young age, it's just not. I mean, and we looked at like what she's done and the success that she's had. Maybe that's just enough for her to walk away and be like, this was like a great thing, but I'm going to go do something else now. And I don't have to make this work. I already made it work and it was a success. And now it's time to move on. I think there's great maturity in that for a young person. Sure. I mean, I'm excited to see what she's going to do in the future, because like you said, she's just very self-aware. Yeah. And I think that's amazing.
And she's already very in tune with what she enjoys doing and what she doesn't enjoy. And it seems like she's just not, like, to me, that's something I would do. Like, if I don't enjoy it, I'm just not going to do it. Yeah. But I think when you're younger, you feel like you have to do certain things to get to a spot that you want to be. And I think
especially if it's become like a source of income and like basically a career for you too. It's like, how do you walk away from that? Yeah. If it, having the maturity to be like, yes, this is successful and I'm earning an income and I'm my own boss and all those things, but maybe this isn't worth it to me anymore. Maybe. And she talked about just getting a regular job. Like, I want to go work for an advertising agency or something like that. Why not try it out?
But I see that more and more with the younger generation now, as they really are pursuing more things that give them life, which can be a really positive thing and a negative thing. I mean, I see all the time on TikTok of people talking about leaving corporate jobs to become entrepreneurs, or just switching careers because they didn't it didn't give them life. It wasn't something they enjoyed. Whereas I feel like our generation, it was like, you pursue your passions outside of work, if that makes sense. When we were graduating college, it was like, you just need to get a job and be able to support yourself. And even if you don't like it, well, kind of suck it up, buttercup, and like find something you really are passionate about outside of work. Do you think that's true?
Well, yeah, but at the same time, like, we did corporate world and I hated it, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't enjoy it, and I would never go back. I would figure out something to do now where I wouldn't have to go back. But then again, when I like go to places at YouTube and I'm talking to people that work at Google, I'm like so fascinated by what they do, and they seem like they have a great culture, and I'm like, maybe I just didn't like early 2000s corporate culture. I know. Like, maybe, I mean, it's been a long time.
We're so far removed.
Maybe it's better. So maybe I can go back and have an experience. But I like that. But I mean, I think that it's okay to change your mind.
Yes, it is.
Which maybe I'll play this clip before we go any deeper into that. But with us, like, we got to have that corporate experience, and now we're having like the entrepreneurial experience, and we even got the stay-at-home mom experience. So we've got to shift and just do things. And have we liked every aspect of every part of it? No, but like, we've got to change it up. Yeah. And I think that's a fun part of life now too, is that you don't have to, be tied to a pension. And I think our parents had to deal with that a lot. Yeah. It's like, if you left somewhere, you're leaving like a bunch of security for your family and for your retirement. And that's just not the case anymore. You have to plan for your own retirement.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we just have a little bit more freedom than our parents had in the way that they guided us. So maybe like the next generation that we're raising up will have it even more, I don't know, just like a broad overview of like, yes, I can do different things and I can try this out. And if it doesn't work, then I can go over here. And like, I don't have to have it all figured out at 22 when I'm graduating college. So I kind of like that.
Good point.
Doing what should just be a fun leisure activity with your friends, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking about how you're going to post about it. A few weeks ago, I was reading Bad Vibes Only by Nora McInerney, and she talked a lot about social media and all of the mental stuff that comes with using it, and I really love this quote where she said, "I finish a book and imagine taking a photo of it in my lap. I write captions in my mind for photos and videos that aren't being taken. I imagine how this idea would be received, the kinds of comments that I may receive." I think this is especially true of these really fast-moving, real-time platforms like Instagram. There is so little buffer between when you experience something and when you share it. So little that you begin to plan how you're gonna share the experience as you are experiencing it. That kind of feels like living a double life.
Yes,
And
I think the quote that she read from this book was particularly interesting to me because it's not my experience or like how I live my life thinking of how I'm going to share every moment of it. It had me thinking of, because to me, when she first said life becomes work, I thought to myself, well, that's part of the appeal to a lot of people is that you can live your regular life and not have to have life and work be separate.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I mean, that's a good point.
It just got me thinking, because that's why people get started in it in the beginning, because they want to be able to have a job to where they can adjust it to their life. And so, I don't know, it really got me thinking, oh, wow, like, okay, there is maybe a negative side for some people that they do want that distinct separation between their lived experience and then what they do for a living.
And to me, when I hear her say that, I was like, well, it makes sense why she's quitting, because I don't think at this point, with how deep I'm in, I can't separate them. Yeah. Like, I can't go on vacation and not be like, as I'm looking at stuff, being like, oh, I want to record this because I could make a reel and splice this. Like, it's how my mind works now. And not only to that point of just making everything I see and do content and how I'm going to tell the story and how I'm going to caption it and how I would want it to look like. I'm not doing that purposefully. It just happens. And also, whenever I meet somebody and they do something really cool, like we bought honey from someone at church yesterday and they were giving it to me, and the bottle is beautiful and they were telling me where their hives are. And I was like, do you ever capture video on that content? Because I would watch that. Like, someone extrapolating the honey and talking, and like, oh my gosh, it would be so funny if you like mic'd people up and took them out and showed them how to collect, and we could hear their reaction of them being like, the bees and da 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 da. Like, that's how my mind works now. I think that everything is content. Everybody should be a content creator. And he was so sweet, and his response was like, oh yeah, like, I don't do the video stuff. If I had somebody to do it for me, great, but I'm not going to do that. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, but I have all these ideas for you. So I think I'm so deep in, I would have to like her, like, quit to shut that part of my brain off.
See, that's interesting to me that you say that, because you don't share like 95% of your life, but you say what I hear you saying is you're still thinking that way as you're living out your
probably things that, I mean, like, very, very, very personal things about me that I would never say on the internet, and not because I'm ashamed of them, but because I want some privacy.
Yeah.
And as a person, like, those things are for, my husband and like maybe 2 other friends, like, it's a very small circle. I don't think everybody should share every not everybody needs to be a Kardashian, is how I'm going to put it. So, I mean, I guess it's nice to hear you that, but whenever I meet someone, I'm thinking about like, oh, should they have a YouTube channel? And I know the answer now is no, because it's not for everybody. But when I hear somebody and hear their story, I'm like, oh, people need to see this. People would watch this. Like, have you ever thought about doing it? And maybe the one out of, 500 people that I meet that actually needs that encouragement is going to get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I've been making videos full time for 5 years now? Is that right? It's just, and because it's my business and my brand, and like, you don't check out. You don't do it 8 to 5 and then check out. There are moments where I'm very conscious of like, I have to check out from this. Like, I have to stop thinking about this. But for me, it's very hard to separate the two. And when I'm looking at things, I'm always thinking about how I would frame a shot.
Yeah.
And I don't have any training in that, and I didn't grow up doing that. It's just the way that my mind works now. So maybe one day when I retire from doing this, I can just be a creative director for somebody else.
Yeah. Because
I've developed that skill over the past 5 years.
I guess my question is, though, for you, do you view that as a negative the way that she does?
If I was 23, maybe I would.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the life that I've lived and the different experiences that I have, I'm okay with where I'm at right now. Do I think it's sustainable for the next 10 or 15 years? No. I think, and the thing that's interesting about her channel is she has some great videos that have millions of views, and she's probably helped people study and whatever, but she talked about in here how when you're on the internet for that long, like, your opinions change. And so at one point she had said, I would never use, it's some like tool. I don't know if it's Milanote or something like that. She's like, I would never use that for organization. And then a year later, she actually uses it now.
When I go back and look at my old videos and like see these ghosts of my past existing on the internet, I would run into little things like when I made a video in the past where I said, I don't like Notion, and Notion is just one productivity tool that I'll never use. And then a while later, spoiler, I ended up finding a way to use Notion that was helpful for me. And in real life, your friends would not give a crap if you started using a different productivity tool. But on the internet, people will be like, but you said this and this a year ago, so you changed your mind now? Basically, what I'm trying to say is people change, and having an online presence makes it harder to. So
I find very similar things like that. There's, I would never use this primer. Well, now it's my favorite primer. It's just like makeup. Like, you use a certain foundation for a while, and then your skin changes, and you're like, I used to dog on this certain foundation, and now it's the one that I use all the time. So it's just, your opinions change. And then, so I don't know, is there a point where you come to the end of your niche and like, or you're just going to constantly be changing what you said, and then people are going to be mad that, 5 years ago you said you would never use that. Well, things change in 5 years.
I know.
So that back and forth on that is interesting and hard when you're so niche down like she was.
Yeah.
And like I am.
Well, and I wonder if that's really a problem. I mean, I'm saying problem hypothetically.
Yeah.
That's more specific to the YouTube platform than maybe a more fast moving one. Like an Instagram follower isn't going to remember what you said.
Dude, an Instagram follower isn't going to remember
ago.
half the things that you said, nor are they going to see half the things you even make. So I don't even know like what the answer is on it. If Instagram, I feel like, is for people that just like sharing everything.
Yeah.
Or that are trying to sell something.
Yeah.
Or trying to grow your personal brand. That's what Instagram is great for. And I guess people are making personal connections in stories. It's just hard, man. Instagram is tough.
Yeah, it is.
So, and I think with YouTube, people feel like they do know you better.
Well, and they still, I mean, I feel like your content has so much more of a shelf life.
Yeah.
Like somebody might find you tomorrow, but they want to go back and watch what you were doing 5 years ago, where maybe you were using completely different products that you would never use now. But it's just that shelf life on YouTube makes it a little bit more nuanced, and because you grow and you learn, and it's really on display.
Yeah. So there are probably so many contradicting statements on my channel, but I don't even know where they're at because I have so many videos. At this point. So I feel her pain on that one.
Your face, life, and personality are permanently on the internet. This is probably true for all of us, at least to some extent, considering we all now live in a world with internet, but it all happens to a greater degree when you yourself are putting out content about your life. So in my second year communication and law class, we learned about something called the right to be forgotten. Basically, there was this guy in Spain whose property was foreclosed because he was having some business trouble, so he owed money, and the property was put up for auction. This information was published on the internet with his name, And even after the auction was over and he dealt with it, he settled his debts, if you Googled his name, you would still find that article, and that did not look good for him. So he filed a lawsuit to have these search results taken down, claiming that they were still destroying his reputation even though the situation was long over. I found that very interesting, and then many months later, I was listening to this podcast episode about technology and how we sometimes talk about it in spiritual or religious terms. I will link the podcast in the description because I feel like it's something that you guys might find interesting. But the part that stuck with me the most was they were talking about how everything on the internet being permanent now has made it hard for people to practice forgiveness. We're constantly pulling up receipts for things people have done wrong in the past. And I personally will not get into the debate of to what extent this is good or bad, or if cancel culture is good or bad. But what I found really interesting was that they talked about how these right to be forgotten laws that are being enacted are trying to give people the permission to leave behind the past and become a new person.
Okay, so this is just a continuation kind of what I was saying. Like, I've probably contradicted myself a million times on the internet. But what like really stuck out about that particular clip and why I wanted to play it is because as a content creator, I like know in my mind that all this stuff is out there for eternity. Like even if I take it down, it could be somewhere else where somebody copied it and they could just put it up. So that's kind of, I don't think I think about that. I don't think about the permanency of the things that I put out. Anything I've put out in the public there's like a public record of me that I have willingly put all this information on the internet. That's kind of scary to think about when you say it that way.
Yeah. And, you know, it made me think of our recent interview with Katie Van Slyke, where she talks about like growing up and learning in her life. And she's doing it on the internet.
Yeah.
And she's having to do it in front of 8 million people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's just a natural part of growing up, getting older, having a lived experience. And, you know, it is quite interesting the point she makes that makes it harder for people to overcome mistakes, to not reinvent themselves, but grow and develop and learn and live this new not a new life, but this what they've learned, like to live it out without the shadow of past mistakes. Like, because that's the first thing now whenever somebody experiences some success is people go digging to figure out how they can disqualify a person. And so yeah, I love that she's thinking about that as a young adult, because we now see so many grown adults who get mistakes dug up from their young adult years and kind of have to relive. It makes you wonder, you know, how is there ever like restoration? I know we've talked about this like offline too. How is there ever like true restoration and forgiveness and mercy extended towards someone if there's always this ability to dig up past mistakes?
Yeah, and how can someone really grow if they don't feel the conviction themselves?
Yeah.
Like if you're when someone makes a mistake and you're instantly asking them to like be canceled or be fired or just like you're disqualified. Mm-hmm. Like, because even if you apologize now, it's only because we've come at you. But isn't that the point? Like, how can you be convicted or how can you apologize unless you know that you've hurt someone's feelings or try to like understand what you did wrong? And there's just like no room for what she said, like for mercy or for grace. Yeah. And that's in my opinion, it's a very dangerous place to be, because I've made so many mistakes in my life. I've said so many like horrible things to people or about people, or made statements that were very misinformed. And it's through relationship where you can actually get that mercy and get that forgiveness to be able to be like, oh man, like I was wrong about this. And like, and you don't have, it doesn't give you any room to change your mind about things. Yeah. You're allowed to change your mind.
Yes, you are.
And no one is ever going to agree on everything. Like there is no one moral standard for the people living in this world, and everybody has the right to believe what they want to, like in this country, and they're actually allowed to say what they believe, whether you think it's right or wrong. Like, we can't prove morally what is right and wrong, like in a global world scale. You can have your own standards of morality based on your beliefs, but we're never going to have like like this universal standard of morality for however many billion people that are living on the world. So just the standards that we hold people to that put their life out there publicly is wild to me. And I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to subject themselves to that anymore. I don't think there's an amount of money that you could subject yourself to that if you're not rooted in like, okay, this is who I am, and I'm okay with not everybody liking me.
Yeah. I think that's the key right there.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be so solid in your own identity and who you are, and not have that bent towards people pleasing to be able to move through people disagreeing with you, or you know, cancel culture or whatever that might be.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It is.
We could get ourselves in trouble going.
I know. All I could think
is,
thank goodness that I wasn't able to record myself at age 23 and put everything out on the internet.
Started at 17 though. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
What kind of foolishness would be up there. So I'm glad she's had,
would have been in trouble.
Mostly a positive experience, it seems.
The more time has gone by, the more I realize that I value privacy and not sharing everything about myself. When I started dating my boyfriend, for example, we discussed this issue almost right away, and we decided that neither his name nor his image would appear on my channel. And a lot of people actually found this weird. I find it weird that they found it weird. But basically, these people would be like, oh, why doesn't she post you on her Instagram or her YouTube? It's because there's a huge difference between posting your partner on a private social media account versus for the open public. A huge difference. I find it very weird that people thought that I would openly post about this part of my life. I'm so glad that we stuck to our guns about this, because I feel like once we share it, it's out there and you can't take it back. It doesn't feel ours anymore. It can be Googled by anyone at any time. So it just felt like it would be a very permanent step to take if I ever posted him on the Bliss Bean, and I'm glad that I never took that step.
Okay, we could give tons of examples and just drag people, but we're not going to name names.
No.
I mean, whether you are no content creators or you just watch content, I mean, can you imagine having to have your personal life, have a boyfriend, like a relationship like that could end or, be great or whatever, and have that all mixed in with people that don't really know you? Can you imagine how messy that would be?
Yes, I just can't imagine subjecting a relationship to the court of public opinion, and if it doesn't work out, and then having people, we see it all the time in semi-celebrities or influencers that everybody thinks they have an opinion or they knew what was really going on, and that's out there for public consumption. I think she's very wise to set those boundaries.
And what's crazy is I've seen people like on YouTube that have gone through breakups and don't address it, and people come in their comments and act like they deserve an answer. And some people will even say like, I don't know if this is too personal, but if you have to say that, it probably is, and feel like they're owed an explanation as to like where that person went and why they're not with that person anymore. That's like crazy to me.
Yes, it is.
And I've seen people go through divorces too, and people want the information on that. Like that, y'all. I mean, but that is the thing where she talked about people feel like they know you, which I get, but you haven't had that personal, it goes back to that personal face-to-face interaction. You haven't had that with that person, but they know all these intimate details about your life. They know what the inside of your house looks like. They know they know what your dog's name is, but you have never met them in person and you don't know anything about them. Maybe you've exchanged some DMs and you've seen maybe I've seen a piece of furniture that they did, but I don't know them. And if that person comes up to you in real life and is like, oh, what happened with your husband? Da, 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 da. Like, you would be you know,
Yeah.
but they feel like they have that right because you've put so much of that out there. And I'm not blaming that all on the audience, because I
Right.
understand why they feel like they have that
Right.
connection. There's people that I feel like I have a connection to that I probably would scare them if I met them in person.
Yeah.
And I have, like, when I meet celebrities, like people, like bands that I follow, I say like the wildest things. I saw somebody from Vanderpump Rules. You were there that night.
Yes.
I won't say who it is because I'm so embarrassed. But like, I went up and I like put my hand on her and said, "You are so beautiful in person." Like, Christina, that is creepy. But I felt like I knew her because I love that show. But like, she was probably like, "Oh my gosh, why are you touching me?" I had a couple of cocktails.
Yes. Was I like that with Katie Vance? Like,
No.
that's what I thought afterwards. I'm
You
like,
were not.
oh.
Oh, because you knew stuff about her content. So
Yeah.
like, you're saying, how do you think she received that? That's an interesting point.
But it was more, I knew the names of her animals. I don't
Yes.
really know.
And you knew some of the names of the people that help.
Yeah.
Like, and her friend that's
Yeah.
doing content creation too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least you felt the awareness of like, was that weird?
Yeah.
I think some people
Afterwards, I was
don't
like,
feel that weirdness.
that's weird.
And they feel like entitled to the information. It just depends on the like emotional maturity and stability and identity of the viewer, I think. But it is kind of, it's a little wild.
In addition to YouTube and Instagram, I've also had a newsletter. I think I started that in the very beginning. So I've always been writing online. It's always been very special to me. For some reason, I really have liked expressing myself in that format specifically. I want to keep that part going because writing on the internet to me feels very different from YouTube and Instagram and everything else. I think I've been able to pinpoint a few reasons why they feel different to me. First of all, writing is much less image oriented and more ideas oriented. So again, if for example, I want to share my morning routine, I have to actually give some really good advice or present something that's new or write it in a really interesting manner in order for my writing to be compelling. Otherwise, why would you want to read a morning routine that is the same standard morning routine everyone has been posting about for years and years? Whereas on a visual platform, everyone is, for the most part, sharing the same morning routine with the same reasoning and the same everything. Then it becomes more about the visuals. Is your bedroom pretty and well decorated? Are your skincare products nice? Are your pajamas pretty? Are you yourself conventionally attractive? That is something that I'm sick of with these social media platforms. The second thing,
I feel like we have differing opinions on this.
Really?
I do. Because I love what she's saying
Mm-hmm.
and it seems idealistic. She's like, it's what makes more sense for her because it doesn't sound like she's a person who enjoys scrolling. I enjoy scrolling. So that's why I think I gravitate towards video more. But what she's talking about has been done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was what started all this content creation to begin with. And I'm old enough and I have been around enough. Again, I'm like, I'm the old woman telling you this isn't going to work. I'm not saying this isn't going to work, but this is what people were doing before video and before YouTube. Everyone was blogging and all you had was your blog and your newsletter. And I guess that is still happening, but I guess maybe her generation hasn't experienced it yet. So maybe now it can have a renaissance.
Yeah. And I still do enjoy scrolling, but I just thought it was such an interesting and thoughtful point about the different ways of consuming something. And also that I love that she's pinpointed that she loves the writing piece of it and how, you know, when she's writing, she has to be creative in other ways, you know, like just providing a really good information, making her writing very captivating and interesting. Whereas, you know, when she was putting it in a video format, she had to think about the aesthetics and the music and all the additional things. I thought that was a very interesting point. I was a huge fan of blogs back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got through newborn phases, was blog reading. And so I was also excited at the thought of maybe that re-emerging in a different way. I'm not that familiar with Substack, but I have noticed a lot of people going back to a Substack type format. So
Okay.
I'm interested to explore that.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting for someone her age to be so aware of the consuming habits and how she likes to consume content, the repercussions of consuming content, the repercussions of how you put out your own content, And I don't know, it just had me thinking, which I like videos like this that just get me thinking about different perspectives and how we consume and why we consume what we consume, you know?
Because
So,
I like, to me, and I guess I'm being such a pessimist, which is not normally like me, but with the way that our brains work now with all this short form content, do we have enough of an attention span to devote that much time to a creator? Because there's so many options out there. Would we really go deep with a creator and read their blog and read a newsletter and be engaged with that way? It would be nice if we could, but I personally, for me, I don't know if I could go back to reading blogs again.
it would have to be something really special, I think, for me.
Yeah.
I really loved blogs back in the day, but
so did I. That's how I started out.
But I also had time.
Yeah.
That was in the season of like newborns and like nursing and
I mean, if you think about it, it was like the very beginning of smartphones.
Yes.
So we were reading blogs on our computer. We weren't really reading them on our phone.
Yeah.
So like, what does that look like? And maybe the new, like what she's talking about, maybe I do need to check out Substack and see how if it makes it easier to just be doing it on the go. Yeah, very interesting stuff.
I know.
I like it.
And I just find it so fascinating that it's coming from such a somebody who started so young and is still very young.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe she'll change her mind and we'll see her back in 5 years or less. But I love how thoughtful and forward thinking and how self-aware she is about what is good for her and what is not good and what she enjoys and what she doesn't enjoy. So,
and that she was vulnerable and she just put it out because she could have just left and, you know, but she really wanted to. She was very thoughtful with how she planned all of it out and all of her points. And I'm really glad that YouTube served it up to me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't follow her. I haven't watched any of her other videos. I briefly watched like a couple just preparing for this interview, but mostly just wanted to share her story on here and just give our thoughts on it from a different viewpoint.
Personally, what is your like takeaway from it? What did it get you thinking of?
I think the number one thing, I mean, it obviously sparked a lot of things. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't really think about content creation that way. Maybe I need to be a little bit more careful about just certain things and just mental health and all those things. But I think honestly, just her bravery to have a successful thing and to know that she's done. And I just want to have enough self-awareness and like hear from God when he says like it's time to hang up your channel to do it, because I think eventually I'll get there. I think right now I'm having I've let go of what my channel was. I don't think my channel is ever going to be what it used to be. And so right now I'm in this fun area where I'm getting to play and explore different things because I don't feel released to let it go for myself or from God. That's who's going to tell me to. I know a lot of people aren't going to understand that, but to me, you know, Jesus is the main thing in my life. And so staying time in prayer and being with friends that can speak into my life and all those things, that, and my husband being like, maybe it's time to hang it up. That if there does come a time where it's time to be like, okay, I'm going to walk away from this channel, to like be okay with it. And that it will be okay. And that I guess my beliefs and my mental health and all those things are more important than what I've built. I'm very proud of what I've built, but it's not my legacy. It's not the thing I'm most proud of. So being able to separate that, I think she just did a beautiful job of being like, hey, this isn't serving my personal life anymore. So this is what I'm going to do for me, for my future. So I think that's very brave as a 23-year-old to do that. And it's inspired me in that way. What about you? What was your main thing?
My main thing is that, you know, I just think it was very brave to know she can, I mean, maybe she's not as confident as she seems, but to me, she seems very confident in her decision to move away from something that was successful and know that she's going to be okay. And know that she has all these other interests, all these other talents, all these other possibilities of things she could do, and not think like by walking away from this, she's like missing out on something big. I love that piece of it because I think when you build something that's successful, it's hard for a lot of people to imagine doing it again or
Yeah.
moving on to something else and knowing like, oh, I'm going to be okay. Like, it'll be okay. Maybe it won't look the same.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't earn as much, but it's going to be all right. Like, I like that confidence in her. Like, oh, I love all these things. I'm good at this and this and this. So, that's what I want to do and pursue those things in my future.
Yeah. Well, we wish her the best. We wish you the best, Blissful Bean. I don't even know her name, which I think is cool because she did a really good job of separating her personal name and her brand, which kudos to her because I have not done that. So
I do know her name, but it's very hard to pronounce.
It looks like Beatrice, but it's not.
No, it's pronounced like Beatrice or something like Beatrice or something like that.
But in her videos, she never even says, hi, I'm Beatrice. She just says, it's the Blissful Bean. I'm like, wow, interesting.
Very smart.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be easier for her to walk away
Maybe
with that. Like nobody knowing her real name. But
I think the hardest part for me is I would have like, when people say when you like lose an arm or something like that, you have phantom, like you can still feel your arm.
Yeah.
Like if I would shut down my YouTube channel, I would still be opening up Studio probably like 3 times a day. And it's like, Christina, you don't have a YouTube channel anymore. Stop opening Studio to look at your analytics and your comments. Oh, funny stuff.
Well, are we going to share a favorite thing?
Yeah, I have favorite things. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'm wearing it. I got this Amazon sweater. I'm really into Amazon fashion because I just don't spend a lot of money on fashion and it's like accessible for a lot of people. I know everybody might have their opinions about fast fashion and all that, but this is a really affordable sweater. It's like top rated on Amazon, so I got it and I love it. It's oversized and it's got these little cuffs on it and it's super soft. Like I don't like it when sweaters are itchy, but I've only been wearing it a couple of times, so I don't know. I'll have to report back later on how it's holding up. But when I purchased it, I got it for under $30. It kind of goes from in between $30 and $50, so you just have to watch for coupons and limited time sales. So
I love it.
And they have tons of colors. And I normally wear a small, but I upsized because it's oversized, and I got a medium. Yeah,
I like it.
Thank you.
Looks cozy.
And my daughter, my 12-year-old, complimented me on it. So whenever she compliments me on something, I'm like, okay, I did a good job.
Yeah,
because she's brutal truth.
Yeah. My favorite thing I'm also wearing, and I've been buying a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, I've bought a few pieces.
You have been buying a lot of
Athleta Forever Fleece. My husband actually got me this top and then matching bottoms for my birthday, and then I bought these Forever Fleece wide leg cargo pants myself.
Oh, nice.
And I just love it. It's so comfy and makes me feel a little bit put together.
Okay.
Because I think I do love athleisure. I do love leggings, but I love athleisure that can make me feel a little bit more like put together and maybe not always leggings, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. So. I'm a huge fan of like that athleisure for travel, and my husband makes fun of me because I personally lean towards I love the Abercrombie essentials. I think they're called the Sunday essentials, and so I buy a new set every year. And it looks very similar to what you have, but I wonder if yours is almost like more performance and mine's more loungy. I don't know. We'd have to compare the two.
The reason I went with Athleta though is because I could get the pants in petite.
Oh, so that's huge.
Because I like joggers and stuff to be a little bit cropped. So I don't know if I haven't even looked at Abercrombie.
I think they do different lengths, but I don't know if they have them for like the sweatpants. I'm thinking that they don't, because I always feel like my sweatpants are short. Tall girl problems. But anyways, okay, well, this was fun. Thanks for indulging me in watching this video. And now we have the Blissful Bean in our life for a day, but now she's gone. But maybe we can follow her on Substack, and maybe we could follow up with her, in a year, 6 months, and see how things are going and try to get her on the Cypress Room.
I know. It'd be cool to see where she goes with her newsletter, and
wish her the best. And it was just it filled me up. I loved listening to it and thinking, that's the point, right? Of listening to things and then trying to like incorporate them into your life and asking yourself good questions that maybe you wouldn't ask yourself otherwise. So I think that's why I love content creation.
I do too.
Yeah, it gets you out of that echo chamber.
It does. I love hearing different perspectives and the different ways people view things through their life lens
Yeah.
of experience. So this was fun. I love
Beautiful.
doing reaction videos.
You do. You always love a good reaction video. Okay. Well, we will be back with another podcast soon. Make sure you subscribe before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up. Show up in the comments and let us know what you learned from the Blissful Bean today. And we'll put that link to the full video if you want to go check it out and watch that whole thing. We'd love to know what you think. And we will see you next time in the Cypress Room.